Today, we examine the three main terroirs of pu'er tea.
Let's see how geography affects taste. Hi guys, this is Gabriele from nannuoshan, where we share the pleasure of drinking and discovering genuine farm tea. Today I am once again with Sigi. Hi Sigi.
Hi Gabriele.
And once again we are drinking pu'er. We want to talk to you about the three main terroirs of pu'er tea, the three main areas, let's say, that have somewhat a characteristic taste. And while actually Sigi is going to start brewing the three exemplars that we have here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the geography, and then while we taste them, we will tell you the characteristic taste that you have in that region. Okay, Sigi?
Yeah, so should we start by introducing the regions and the respective teas we're drinking?
Yeah, that's for sure. So the first one here on this side, which one was that? This is the EU
2015
one?
YIWU.
Yeah, is a tea from Sigi, is a EU 2015 that was a whole pearl, about 8.5 grams, I think.
Something like
that, that Sigi just broke into two parts. And which one is this one here?
This is the 2013 Bingdao from nannuoshan.
Which is this cake here. We don't have any cakes anymore in the shop, but there are a few 50-gram pouches if any one of you is interested. And the last one is
the 2011, what was it, MINZHU BULANG?
Yeah, it's the BULANG MINZHU here, a tea that has sold out long ago, but I still have one pouch, and it is a good example of terroir Menghai, the terroir of the Menghai county. The Menghai county is in the west of the Xishuangbanna Prefecture, in the very south of the EU province. And what we have in the middle, actually, the Bingdao, is a characteristic taste from the Lincang prefecture that is more towards the north of the province. And finally, we have the YIWU here. YIWU is also in Xishuangbanna. So it is in the Xishuangbanna prefecture, but is on the opposite side of Menghai in the east, very close to the border with Laos. And now, there are other places where pu'er is produced in Yunnan, and it's not that if you take a tea, whichever tea for, let's say, YIWU, you will always have that characteristic taste. YIWU is also a large region with many mountains, and you can encounter a very diverse, actually, tasting scenario there. But as a matter of fact, over the years, there are some commonalities that I have seen in many tea from YIWU, as well as in many tea from Lincang, as well as in many tea from the Menghai county. And I have to say, Sigi, that it's not a thing that I read first, it's a thing that I really experienced first. And the very first time I remember that I went after more information is when actually I noticed the characteristic and peculiar taste of tea from Lincang. Because I started drinking tea from Menghai, so that was my tea. Yeah, so here, Menghai, that was my tea.
Should we start with that one then?
Okay, let's start with that one. And that for me was how pu'er is supposed to taste. And then later on, I had a few cake from Lincang, and I found not only a difference with respect to Menghai, but also a common taste among those Lincang tastes. And
So,
yeah.
What kind of taste is it?
Well, let's start with the Menghai one, right? This is the Menghai.
Yep.
Let's go.
Cheers.
It's good. 11 years old. First brew, and already quite present, quite there.
Yep.
Very strong taste, good flavor. But what really comes to my tongue is the strength that this tea has. Yeah, because usually in the first brewing, and you didn't steep for very long, you have all this subtle note, floralities, very light. It's like here it has been skipped. we don't have that. How do you see that?
Yeah, I do feel like some kind of floral taste, but it's definitely not what's dominating. This is already presenting in quite a strong way. Menghai County known for its sort of like strength bitterness. And we do get some bitterness there. Obviously, it's not as strong as it would be in like a tea from 2021. It has already mellowed out a little bit
because of the age,
but we can still feel at least something I find quite particular in teas, specifically from the greater BULANG area, is a type of bitterness that sort of tastes a bit like citrus pith. Which I think we can also find in here.
So some astringency as well. Let's go to the Bingdao actually. And Bingdao is a very famous tea, similar to Laobanjiang, but actually became famous about 15 years ago in 2005. Before that year, no one was really talking about this tea, as well as of Laobanjiang. So if you find out some Laobanjiang or Bingdao from year 2000s or even earlier, that's not the case, because at that time no one was caring about producing a tea of a single origin from Bingdao. But anyway, Sigi, why actually Bingdao became popular? What was the
there was one sort of big catalyst. In the Lincang area we have the Mengku Shuangjiang, or specifically the Mengku Rongxi brand that produces a lot of tea. And back in 2005, they produced the, what was it called? I think Mushu Cha was the particular production. So Mother Tree, that was just kind of the brand name. It wasn't literal Mother Tree, of course, but it was a production that mainly featured material from the Bingdao area. Region.
And that cake became very famous. And that's why after that very famous cake, Bingdao remain up to today a very, let's say, characteristic taste for all Lincang, I would say. And what we see in this tea to me is that I don't have actually any florality at all. It's more of a herbaceous taste that I have. It's more herbs that are in there. There is no bitterness. Let's see how it evolves, but there is no bitterness. Just a very present spicy notes, I would say. How do you see that?
Yeah, it's like herbs and spicy, of course, not in the sense that it's spicy like pepper would be, or chili or something. But rather just spices in general.
like,
seasoning, the kind of stuff you cook.
Like an Indian. Like an Indian tea with a lot of spices somehow. So it has these spicy notes that to me are very characteristic for Lincang in general, and limited bitterness. And now we go to the last one, which is was this one? No, is that one the YIWU? Is the YIWU 2015. And let's see what to expect from a classic tea from YIWU. And I want to point out again a disclaimer, because I know many of you say, oh, that's not true, I had very bitter tea from Lincang. Oh, it's not true, I have very herbaceous tea from Menghai. For sure, they are very large area that produce tons of tea every year. You will find also very diverse tea. Here we are speaking about what to expect on average, from that specific region.
It's like, we're not talking about like specifically, or we're not making the claim that all teas from that region are going to be like that, but I think even beyond our own sort of tea circles, even in the larger kind of tea sphere, these are often kind of flavors that are associated with these areas.
Yes, and for a reason, And while you go for another steep, I already started describing this tea, because you will notice there is a very clear difference with both the previous two. These did you steep it a bit longer actually?
I did.
Okay, so this is actually much softer. Okay, you really, in terms of texture, really, not only of flavor, there is no bitters and all, but it's just very, very soft, And you will tell me as soon as you try it, but to me, that's the characteristic actually of YIWU. Usually in YIWU you have these softer, rounder taste with some sweetness that it's not that it's super sweet, but I would describe rather as a lack of bitterness and a very pleasant aftertaste. yeah, long-lasting aftertaste, kind of sweet. Yeah, what the Chinese like to call Hui Gan, return of sweetness. Do you see that in here? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I would have described the taste of the Bingdao as sort of maybe spiced honey in a sense. Like it also had some of that honey sweetness. The honey aspect of that flavor is really what's kind of in the forefront of this particular tea, and the spice part of it is almost entirely gone. It's just kind of like pure honey.
I see. Yeah, no, that's and don't worry if you're not able to follow now the difference between the three. We will make a nice summary at the end. But now this has been steeping for a little bit longer, actually quite longer, so we can see what comes out of a much longer steeping. Because sometimes when you steep the tea shortly, there is not so much difference between them. But then when you kind of power steep them, then it's where really the differences and the essence and the soul of each tea come out. And yeah, let's go for it. So this is the
BULANG.
BULANG 2011. That's a Gushu.
And then this one is almost fully opened up.
That's strong. That's really strong. Wow, and I feel the heat in my head. It's like boom. It's wow.
Let's see.
It's good that the window is open actually, because it's really.
Yeah, some particular BULANG teas always make me sweat a little.
Yeah, it's yeah, you would call it in Pu'er jargon, you would say chachi, the tea energy. There is a lot of that in here. So it's this bold, strong taste, boom, right in your face, basically. Yeah. And with some bitterness as well, for sure. Yeah, not so much in the first tea, but here you have so much of it.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, a lot of people value Menghai area tea in particular because they assign these characteristics it has when it's youthful with sort of a good potential for aging.
Yeah, because there is this tendency to say bitter notes would transform over time. So you remove that bitterness and you get the bold, aged taste of tea. While if the tea is already weak at the beginning, you might not get that much of it. Yeah, that's. I mean, we're not now judging if that's right or wrong, but that's a common say, right?
It takes like a lifetime of experience to do that, I think.
Bingdao, Lincang. So it's strong, bitterness is not there. Yeah, you cannot even compare with BULANG. BULANG was bitter, this is not there. And you have these, so these herbs and spiciness, you could describe it as a multi-layer. When you have spices in your mouth, you have this kind of tickling and flavor all around. That's what this tea, the sensation that this tea gives to you. Certainly a strong tea, but it doesn't have that bitterness, and it doesn't have any fruity or floral note. It's just herbs.
Yeah.
And look, the YIWU is the darkest. So let's see.
Yeah, I'm curious how it's going to be, because I, of course, let that one sit for a bit longer again since it was compressed.
Yeah, it's the lightest of the three. It's the lightest by far.
Yeah.
It's so light and soft. I would even say, I mean, might not sound very positive, but quite neutral in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. It's pleasant, it's nice to drink, but it's not a tea that if you drink it on the side, you drink it and it attracts your attention. It's just pleasant to drink on the side, yeah?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it has that that nice aftertaste that remains in your mouth, also probably because of the lack of bitterness. So you don't have that bitterness that cover your palate.
Yep.
Yeah. Which one do you like the most?
Oh, that you're asking some tough questions today.
I mean, it's you're the expert, Sigi.
Am I though?
Cannot ask you easy questions. But cannot. It is an easy one. So, like by feeling, if I tell you, you can choose one and do another steep, which one do you go for? Like I know straight away.
I mean, knowing that we're gonna be drinking tea for the rest of the day, I'd probably choose the YIWU. But
okay, that's the
if we're like in a sort of focused session and paying attention, I feel slightly more drawn towards the Bingdao because I think it has sort of elements from both sides.
Mm-hmm. Now for me it's the same. Like I would have said Bingdao with one note is that actually the BULANG I also like quite a bit, but I would just tip it differently. Like I would have, for my taste, I would get to go much lighter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and approach it much slower because just for me it's too much. Like in my head, I still feel that first tea, and I know it is that one. I know it is.
I've also still got a bit of that left.
Let's summarize the three main terroirs of Pu'er. We have the Menghai area. In the Menghai county, you have a strong, bold taste with bitterness and a very present chachi, tea energy. In the center here, we have Bingdao, a characteristic tea from Lincang Prefecture. The taste here is not so bitter, nonetheless a good body, quite strong, bold, and a very characteristic, and that's the point, herbs note or spiciness or herbaceous tea, you call it. So like there would be spices mixed with the tea. And then on this side we have a very characteristic, I have to say good choice, very characteristic tea for YIWU. And in this area you have a softer, mellow taste, a round taste and texture, is light, but with a characteristic sweetness and in particular a long-lasting aftertaste. Sigi, did I make a good summary?
Yeah, I've got nothing to add.
So what we do now, we go for lunch and then we hurry up because we have to drive really to Munich downtown to meet Jens, yes, the author of that tea book, and have another tea session with Jens.
Yeah, today is going to be a lot of work.
Bye guys.
Bye.